Welcome to SHOWstudio's live panel discussions. In these discussions, experts from all parts of the industry discuss and debate the most important Fashion Week shows of the season. Today, during Paris Fashion Week, we're going to be discussing Coperni. Before we dive into discussing this Instagram-facing brand, I would like my panelists to introduce themselves. Let's start with you, Polly, and work your way back to me.
Hi, I'm Polly Lovelady, and I am a brand consultant.
Hi, I'm Iris Lewis, and I'm an editor and journalist focused on tech.
I'm Eastwood Danso, and I'm a student, and I run an ongoing menswear project.
It's more than just a designer. And I'm Lara Johnson-Mila, and I'm a freelance writer, editor, and broadcaster. So Coperni, very exciting because this is the first Coperni panel that SHOWstudio has ever done, and it is also our first panel of the Autumn/Winter 20 women's wear collections in Paris. So to start talking about Coperni, obviously in my very brief introduction, I said that it is known as an Instagram-facing brand, and I think that's really crucial to talking about Coperni. It kind of feels like the first thing that people say when they think about the brand. It was founded in 2013 by Arnaud Vaillant and Sébastien Meyer, but kind of had its relaunch in February 2019. And it's really been, it's one of those brands that's really made its mark on Instagram, particularly because of its sort of tech. It's looking at tech and the way that they've done their campaigns. I mean, I know we've talked about this bit before we have just gone live, but looking at one of their Instagram campaigns that really grabbed me was this kind of Bandersnatch style follow the bunny handles. Did you guys see this?
Yeah.
Is that something?
Yeah. So I thought it was really interesting, that whole campaign or marketing strategy. Mainly because I think we're reaching a point where we're all becoming very native in terms of tech. Like, people are very fluent with tech. So it's not so much about doing your Instagram bit, it's doing your Instagram bit that's authentic to your brand.
Totally.
And kind of like, in their case, doing something subversive within Instagram, which is using hashtags and ads to create a storyline, which I thought was really amazing.
Yeah. So we're kind of looking at it on the screen. It's what I said. You said you weren't really familiar with it.
Yeah.
But just so basically they kind of created all of these different Instagram accounts, and it was like a follow the bunny by clicking. You choose pick your player kind of thing. So you pick an Instagram account, it takes you to one place, and then you could choose another one. And so like the Bandersnatch kind of concept, like choose your own ending. And the key thing was that they utilised a lot of people who are kind of part of their community. And this idea of designers having like a community around them is very popular at the moment, but putting it in this way on Instagram, I think, was quite new and felt quite fresh.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think the kind of the benefit of being a digital native like this is when you're designing? Paul, you're looking very confused.
Yeah, I am. I'm just a bit confused about how you first kind of start the journey.
Right.
So like, I'd go on this video, and then what would happen after this?
I think it started on the Coperni Instagram account, and then they were sharing it, and then you find that you just want to click on different handles.
You click on you better work be.
Okay, so that was like the next step.
Yeah, sure.
And then you keep on going around. And then how many were there in total, do you know?
I have no idea how many there were in total. It felt almost endless. But crucially, they're using kind of very free and flippant vocabulary. It feels very youthful. Plus, they're showing all of this content that they've produced with the garments and the accessories looking very natural.
It's sort of a choice because everyone chooses to click, as opposed to being like just given it and shown it.
Yeah.
They're actually making a decision to view it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of this idea that they're very inspired by tech, and they're doing they're working it into not only their designs but their marketing. So it's kind of this 360-degree influence. We're looking at the swipe bag right now, which is kind of their like iconic piece that they've been putting out, and that's inspired by the swipe to put your phone on airplane.
Yeah.
I think that wouldn't remind me of the airplane mode button. It's just a bag that.
But do you think once you like know that fact?
Can we find
don't-
like, there's a little animation that shows that on the Coperni
Yeah, maybe let's
Instagram.
see. I think it's on the Instagram.
I think
Shows
you
you
can
the.
find it pretty.
Shape?
Yeah,
So it's the shape.
Oh, yeah. Okay, fine.
So you're saying that that's
Yeah.
just a bag that doesn't kind of inspire you?
Yeah, because there are a lot of bags that look like that. I could name a few brands, but there's no need for that. But I just think that
Yeah.
that is just, like, that's like me designing a jacket and it looks like something. I'm like, you know, I must say that.
So do you feel like that's not, it doesn't make you feel like that product is kind of more covetable or interesting because you know this backstory?
Yeah, it's a backstory I'm not buying, so it's just like, but other people might buy it, so.
I think the whole point of these kinds of brands, like the new generation of brands, including Balenciaga, are not about reinventing some new piece of fashion. It's about, again, recontextualizing clothing, but they're taking it to the next level where they're not only recontextualizing clothing, but recontextualizing the way that we're consuming clothing. So a big goal of their brand is to come like sell individual pieces rather than like layering over 10 million other pieces so that you're constantly in this capitalist kind of like craving mode, which I think in the long term is going to be so much more beneficial and so much more authentic and really strike a chord with people who now only buy things that have a conscience and a personality behind them, something like that.
So do we feel that these pieces have that personality that we might be looking for?
Oh, that is cool.
I think it's when you look
like
at
that, do you?
Yeah, that is
when you
Sorry,
look
I
at a
interrupted
normal
you.
tank top, obviously it's a normal tank top, but if you can really attach like an interesting story, I think that's really going to make a difference.
Polly, what do you think? Are you kind of interested in that narrative that this is inspired by tech?
Yeah, I am. And also, like, I don't know, through history, things have always been inspired in a kind of slightly abstract way. It's not like anything particularly new that something feels like it's come from something and then he has a small element of it that's like directly looks like it. And yeah, I think it's interesting that it comes and is inspired by tech. It's something new, it's different, and there aren't, I don't know any other brands that have created something from an aeroplane. It is interesting. And I really like the pieces in general. And I kind of feel like, yeah, if you were to like, I know that they said that they're quite inspired by Apple, and I slightly feel like if you were to sort of open up a MacBook Air and look inside, then maybe the pieces would look like this. So you can see like the relativity in the structure and the lines and the kind of the simplicity that the way that Apple and Mac create their.
Of course, they showed their collection, the SS20, at their Apple store, which is, you said you're very jealous of that concept.
Yeah, somewhat of. It's because Apple is like a big company. Everyone wants to work with Apple, you know. But it's like, I feel like, I don't know. I just don't take interest in what they're trying to, or what they take the inspiration from. I feel like if your whole company is based on technology, I'd want to see something like something that will excite me. Because that's when I think about technology. Like when I see when Apple do their little thing every year, I'm excited to see that, you know?
So you want to see tech, perhaps?
And also
in the
not
clothes.
everything, the way they explain their pieces, it's like not everything needs that type of explanation. Like a designer might put a t-shirt on a car and then say, oh, I saw this car in my childhood, that's why I did it. And then another designer might be, oh, I just like the car, that's why I put it on the t-shirt. And I feel like I'd respect that more rather than this person just making up a nonsense story for consumers to now buy.
But what about it? Because the way that I see it is that it's still about technology, but it's the dialogue that we have and the conversation that we have towards technology has completely shifted. It's not about these grandiose statements of like technological advancements, because we've become so advanced that advancement is constant. It's more about the idea of day-to-day normalcy and like humans' capacity to adapt to technology and how it's so much in our day-to-day life. So reflecting that sort of normalcy and making an opinion and conversation around that, rather than being like, tech is going to keep on changing and here's something crazy. Like, here's a future. The future is constantly now.
Yeah. There's a very good article that Laird Bordelli-Pearson wrote for Vogue that was kind of charting like the most exciting moments where tech and fashion sort of married together over the years, you know, referencing, of course, the moment when SHOWstudio showed Platos Atlantis, Helmut Lang's of CD-ROMs, you know, lots of kind of very interesting tech moments. And the funny thing was that I felt that all of those, looking through them today, everything felt dated because, you know, as you say, tech is constantly evolving. I wonder if this will feel dated.
I think, as I said before the panel, I compare this a lot to Balenciaga and to Vetements, because what Vetements did was take something that people were comfortable with, so the hoodie or like comfortable, very standard, innocuous pieces of clothing that have kind of like paved our evolution as people. And it's not about being like, oh, let me remake this out of something else. It's like, let me show you how the human has kind of like arrived and continues to arrive to the future. And it's more about how he perceives the future rather than the future showing him.
So this is
what's
sort of
new.
evolutionary rather than revolutionary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Polly, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of felt like technology is something that has come and will come again and keeps on going. And it doesn't, technology doesn't need to be like the future. You know, technology, like there is technology that was the future 5 years ago. So saying tech doesn't mean that it necessarily needs to be futuristic. It can still be inspired by past tech, future tech. That's kind of how I take the take on tech.
Well, that's kind of like the vibe of, I think another thing that I've seen is people's different interpretations of the time frames of tech.
Right.
So like Marine Serre actually does a very, I don't know how to say, like not Neanderthal, but quite like primitive version of tech. So like the concept of like the man coming out of a cave and this is like in his raw state of tech, which I think is interesting to compare for different people's perception of how tech is now normal. It's not new.
Yeah, Coperni are very much looking, I think, at kind of almost like the banality of tech in our lives, how we are so used to it. Maybe what you're interested in is seeing more of an analog approach.
Yeah, perhaps. I just feel like that, like if you saw the clothes, would you automatically think, yeah, they took that from an Apple product? Because I wouldn't. I don't think most people would.
I don't think...
would look at the bag and say, yeah, they got that from a...
But then that also begs the question, is there a discrepancy between the garments, and would we have the same draw to the garments without the sort of now iconic looking bags and accessories?
I think a lot of it, I think in this day and age in fashion, a lot of it is completely detached from design, for better or for worse, and really attached to meaning and interpretation. So for me, when I look at this brand, I don't look at the simple blazer in this picture. I don't look at the simple bandana and think, oh, it's a bandana. I think of like the streamlined interpretation of these somewhat innocuous clothes and see that if I bought into that brand, I'd be buying into the streamlined, kind of like evolutionary, like reinterpreted and subversive version of what a blazer used to be.
Which I guess is kind of like Apple. It's like you get your new iPhone and like not much has changed, but you've like bought into the fact that like it's new. And also like iconic pieces of tech, like I still remember like my 3310 and like, you know, you remember like iconic pieces of technology, like the Apple MacBook that was like in Legally Blonde. It was like, it was like iconic.
Is there something potentially problematic there about looking at clothes that are only very gradually changing in their designs because it's creating a kind of consumer culture where we want to buy just the like slightly upgraded next thing?
I think there's a big problem with it because when I create items, I want the wearer to have it for as long as possible. I don't want them to, like if you buy a jacket this season, is it really necessary for you to buy a jacket of me next season? And I'm not saying I don't want to be rich because I do, but it's like, I want to make garments that last. Like, because for example, like when I'm looking at some of these pieces, I'm just seeing a jacket or just a...
So yeah, let's turn our attention to the current collection that showed a few hours ago in Paris. Maybe Hetty, we could just go up to the top for a hot second. I'd love to hear your initial thoughts. And really, do we feel like these are pieces that are being designed with the intent to buy and then buy a new one? Or do they look like pieces that could be
I think it's more like, I think for me they look like pieces that you could have in your wardrobe and wear again. It's not like, you know, that black dress, I imagine that I would wear it in 5 years' time as well as 10 years' time. So it's not necessarily like you buy it, throw it away, buy a new one. It's just that you'd buy that and then maybe you'd also buy another one, but you'd still wear it. You know, you still carry on wearing it. I think that's like for me, would be very everyday.
True.
I think personally, like I instantly, when I look at this collection, not at all like the design itself, but that approach to taking very simple things and making a heightened, more luxe, more cared for version of it. Instantly, it makes me think of Helmut Lang. Helmut Lang was making tank tops. Helmut Lang was making normal jeans. That if one person to the other could think, oh, that pair of jeans is the jeans that I'm going to wear for the rest of my life, and for another, it's just like, oh, that's a random pair of jeans. I think it's about echoing and linking the garment to the identity so that when the right person sees it, they see that those trousers and think those are not just the trousers that I think are going to fit well, but also identify with me, not just now, but maybe in 20 years' time. So I think it is actually very durable. And also the other thing, they said they place a great focus on silhouette, which is something that a lot of brands right now actually steer clear from. And I think it's because they're scared that they're going to get put into the same package as like IMG and all these brands that are very cheap, but cater to like very well-tailored shapes.
Right.
And you can still make a well-tailored thing and still be able to make a statement with it.
I don't think that's true. Like, me personally, every collection I've shown, I've used the same blazer design and, like, changed the fabric. Just because the blazer's just fire, bro. Like, yeah.
Personal plug.
There's some other brands, like, for example, like a Cold War.
Yeah.
They've shown, like, when it comes to their tailoring, they've shown the same blazer for the past 4 seasons. But what they've done is develop, like, fabrics, they've developed lining, they've developed trimmings of it. So I don't think that's completely true, but I hear where you're coming from because these brands do just take anything they want and just mass produce it like the next day. But when it comes to this brand, I feel like, I mean, it's rare these days for a brand to just present a 10-10 collection. So, you know, people are allowed to make mistakes and stuff. There are some great looks in there.
What do you like?
I think if you go, like, I like the trousers. They remind me of something, but I can't think of the reference. I think it's Prada.
Yeah,
But,
I think so, Prada.
I like the trousers. I like that blazer. That's something a little bit
This,
new.
the green with the long
But
sleeves.
it's also like, other brands that have done like exaggerated sleeves, so it's just like.
Is that what you mean, Iris, about the Demna reference?
Yeah, that, and also now talking about the Prada reference, I actually think that maybe it's not like intentional to the point where it's like, hey, we're doing Prada, but like some of those dresses that like have a little piece going over the chest are so distinctive of like Prada collections that I think that it's gone to the point where it's kind of like referencing the utility and that whole brand aspect which Prada had at the time, which was injecting a whole vibe and lifestyle surrounding the pieces they were making and not revolutionizing fashion per se, like the silhouettes.
I've got a question.
Go on, Paul.
I saw there was a fur coat.
Yes, I wondered who was going to hit on that.
Faux or is it real?
That's an excellent question. Should we have a little look and see?
Where is it?
Because I know that the brand are very conscious about people being able to unearth the progeny of the clothes. In previous collections, they've had QR codes stitched inside of the jacket, so you can take a photo and then find the exact sheep, the place. So I would be interested to know if that was faux or otherwise.
But
what do we think?
What's your opinion on?
I'm a vegetarian. So, like personally, I'm not that for real fur.
I mean, it would be quite a bold move to.
Yeah, but then it looks quite. I mean, it definitely looks like animalistic, as it's not. Obviously, it's not like dyed. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It looks. It's been made to look like.
Have a look in the show notes and see if I can find that out for
animal.
you. So, would that change your opinion of the collection as a whole?
Well, yeah, probably it would, and also, it would change my opinion, just because like the future, I don't think is fur. So, I guess it's not about being futuristic necessarily, but like, I'm just not into. Not into fur.
I think the future isn't fur, but it also isn't totally the current state of synthetic fur either. So yes, you have like coconut derived sustainable fur, but I think this whole idea and campaign that people are having at the moment, which is kind of like borderline a bit fascistic sometimes, is kind of misled by the idea that fake fur is actually helping the cause, because the whole process of making fake fur actually makes so much more damage, has so much more emissions, burns so much more of the forest.
Doesn't decompose.
You see, none.
So actually, like,
Okay, let's have a look. I mean, it's also interesting that they chose to include a piece that does reference the idea of fur, because they're so interested in this tension between nostalgia and futurism. And I wonder if that, they're trying to kind of get us as the audience, as the consumers, to think about that and to think where we would situate that coat.
I feel like, me personally, I wouldn't, if I like the collection just because they have a fur jacket, it wouldn't drastically change my mind just because there are big brands that will be doing 5, 6 fur pieces, and we don't question it just because they're up there. They can't really be touched. But then when a small brand now decides to want to do something like that, we want to attack them. It doesn't work. Like me personally, like I had one leather look in my collection the past 2 collections, and I've used like leather, which is it's like a byproduct of the meat industry and stuff. So it's better than using like fake leather that doesn't decompose and stuff. And then every time a buyer would walk in, they'd attack me straight away, like,
Really?
what type of leather is this?
Yeah.
Bro, like.
Which, by the way, for independent designers to buy fake leather at full price is not only really expensive and not at all sustainable for the designer, but also to get like the premium version that doesn't stink is really hard. So I think it's just a completely unfair.
Yeah, I think the jacket is clean. Like, let them run it.
You're a fan of it?
I'm a fan of it.
Would you wear it?
I would wear it.
A Matrix, sex up.
Yeah, what do you think about this look?
I'm into it.
You're into it, Paul?
I really like a specific look where it's like a latex, not latex, is it latex? Jacket that's transparent white. It's like a parka, and it's got a little, that one. Because I think it kind of shows kind of like the essence of the brand, which is this idea of like making something new, but not really sensationalizing the use of something new or sensationalizing the silhouette or anything, and rather catering to the core of what a woman wants to wear, but bringing it to the now and making something subversive and meaningful out of it. Like, not everyone who wears this wants to have like a crazy shape and look like fecal matter, you know? They want to wear a jacket that's made of latex and it's cute, you know?
So not reinventing the wheel, but doing something that makes you feel fresh.
Well, it's like when 5 years ago you'd look at latex or PVC and you'd be like, oh, I mean, it's so cool and it's a great texture, but the silhouettes that are right now available makes me look like either Kat Von D or Dieter Von Teese. So it's like...
So would you be interested in wearing that piece?
I think it would be cool.
I can't see myself wearing that.
You can see yourself more in the
can't.
leather.
Yeah, I can see myself in leather, not so much. Or like, the asymmetrical. I like that.
But I mentioned this kind of tension between like the nostalgic and the futuristic. Where do you think this falls? Does this, I mean, I wonder if this collection feels new, if it feels kind of anachronistic, or if it's doing what I think a lot of designers want to do right now, which is make itself feel timeless.
It's timeless.
Yeah.
I think it's timeless.
This is timeless?
I think the idea, not timeless as in like this is so groundbreaking, but it is timeless. But more the concept of what they have in mind. Also, when you said that, all I could think about was a Dua Lipa album that's called Future Nostalgia. But I mean, it's so current that like big pop stars are making albums with that kind of title. But the concept of like, internet has made it so easy to reference and understand the references that we make in fashion, to the point that now we can take stuff from the past and even predict things from the future. And now it's about making a mix of the two, something that's kind of like of the now,
But you can keep wearing.
that you can keep wearing.
So that is sort of, I think, the mood in the air. And I mean, Paris has kind of only just started. We've only seen a few collections, but I think Marine Serre was doing quite a similar thing earlier today of sort of, but I wonder if it leaves us in an almost fashion limbo of not necessarily feeling like we're conscious of, you know, a direction and a movement forward. We're not totally referential and nostalgic, but there's some kind of, you know, a link that's kind of chaining the present.
One last thing I'll say really quick, going back to Dua Lipa.
Oh, no, don't
of
stop.
all people, is the photographer for the album Future Nostalgia is Hugo Conte.
Yeah.
He also shot the recent campaigns for the brand, and that is fully his idea. It's this idea of limbo where he's using very traditional methods of scanning, and I think it's called bit mapping. And from that, he's making a product that kind of like falls into this idea of like nostalgic and vintage, but also...
Wait, when you say he's making a product, you mean his imagery as the product?
His image.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think that's also kind of what Coperni are doing. They're using imagery and content to create the idea of that product too.
For sure.
And that's sort of what we want to, I mean, when people buy it, that's kind of what they want to buy into. I wanted to ask you a bit about the palette as well, because this this collection's palette seems to have really moved away from what they were playing with, you know, pastels and lilacs last season, and then like a flash of tartan. Do you prefer this? What do we think?
In terms of timeless, I think that, you know, these are more versatile pieces in their colour tones, because you can kind of pair them up.
Yeah.
I like the yellow. I don't think yellow is very easy to wear, but I really like the splash of yellow. But yeah, I guess that's a reference like Helmut Lang. It's kind of like, slightly pared down, but again, you can keep wearing the pieces, hopefully year after year. and piece them with other bits. You were saying about how they create the pieces kind of on their own as opposed to one full look. You can feel that with the color tone. You could piece, like sort of reimagine everything together or piece your own pieces. Yeah.
What about, do you think that the one thing that I was thinking about is when you're in this idea of limbo and when you're in this Instagram first brand, do you think there's a constant like running race to not be for other brands like who are much more, much cheaper and much more accessible and Instagram led? So like Meow or like other women's Instagram influencer, kind of like Italian Riviera vibes kind of brand, you know, that kind of brand. What I thought is that I kind of feel like their departure from that past shade range might be like an attempt at kind of like trying to stay on track of being in front of all these brands that like will then copy that instantly and that so can easily reproduce
Do you mean
that.
Because the palette is sort of more toned down and less kind of, you know, image friendly?
Just the idea that they're renewing something, because that whole palette from the past collection, I can't give you like specific examples, but like for instance, Meow also use kind of shades like that, and maybe it's constantly this running them like cat and mouse game of these like higher up brands setting the tone for what the Instagram, not the Instagram aesthetic, because there's tons of different ones, but one of them could be, and then having other Instagram brands which are facilitated by like the shopping option on Instagram.
Sure, of course.
So all of that kind of like ties into each other and becoming a whole new dialogue of, like not copyright, but like who's copying who where's, what's gonna come next, everything's going even quicker. So, yeah.
I wanted to ask a bit about the way that the brand chose to show, because having read previous interviews with them, it's interesting because they've always said that they didn't want to show a collection and have kind of cited a collection in a runway show format. They always said that that felt not necessarily like them, that big houses like Chanel would do that and it wasn't necessarily relevant. But here we are, doing a panel discussing their show. Do we think this worked? Obviously, we're not viewing it, we haven't viewed the show live, but do we feel like Coperni showing in a traditional runway show format works for the brand?
Well, probably not really.
No?
Not really if they're, if they're trying to make a point about being more tech focused and saying that they didn't. And obviously people are very free to change their mind. That's not necessarily the issue.
Totally,
but I guess they did these amazing campaigns, and maybe there could have been a more creative, bigger possibility for them to create something that was more groundbreaking than doing a traditional show. If that's the direction that, and that's the way that they think.
I mean, is it just
brand?
Sorry for interrupting you. Very rude of me. But is it just that a show format is just like a rite of passage?
I know. I always think about that.
So what do you think as a designer?
Shows are just expensive, so
yeah.
As long as the clothes are walking on a model down the track, it doesn't matter in my opinion. It doesn't matter. They've done the runway. If you do something special because you have the budget, great. If you don't, this is still great.
It's been a while since I've done one of these panels, but I feel like always I'm so interested in, and particularly working at SHOWstudio, we've always talked about the need to see clothes in motion.
Yeah.
It's something that, Nick always totally pioneers. And I wonder if these are clothes that need to be seen in motion.
Maybe it being in an Apple store, I don't know for the next show. But maybe it being in an Apple store is kind of like referencing maybe the intricacies and the difficult dialogue that we're having at the moment about if runways are necessary.
Right.
And also, one thing that I'd want to say, the reason why it's, not the reason why, but it's one of the aspects that kind of like must have directed them towards their Apple store, but they have bags, they're new, like, well, I'm guessing they're trying to aim as an it bag. their new It bag is inspired by the Wi-Fi signal.
Yeah. So this collection was actually shown in Station F in Paris, but the previous collection, you're right, it was in the Apple Store. And yeah, I mean, of course, you know, it makes total sense to do like another show to the Wi-Fi bag. Yeah.
I'd like to think that we're still, so for better or for worse, still a bit stuck in that kind of like constant post-irony kind of vibe, where I'd like to hope that they're doing it there rather than online or rather virtual reality, because they also, people like to do stuff in real life, because if you do everything via tech, you can't build a real life community.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to still have pillars of sociability, IRL.
Right.
You sort of remember things as well more when you see them in real life.
You think?
You know, when things are offline, you do remember them. Otherwise, it's so hard to just be like, boof, 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 boof. But if you're there and you're taking the emotion and the feeling and you're sitting down and you're talking to your friends and whatever.
I do agree, but simultaneously, there are so many shows in Paris. And I've got to say, for one, that I know I'm babbling on about it, but the campaign, the Coperni's Your Life campaign, really stuck with me. And it really attracted me to the brand. And I wonder if, you know, slotting into a show format like this would have the same impact for a new customer.
Yeah.
Would they see that runway show and have the same response that I did to this campaign?
Yeah, like the creativity and the thinking above and beyond the ordinary. I mean, I think it's fun to do lots of more interesting things.
Totally, yeah. And they kind of, you know, they have the ideas.
Yeah. And why not?
I mean, I think also the only issue that we're having at the moment is we're reaching kind of like, I did like this random panel talk about WeWork, where they were saying that WeWork wasn't about tech, it was just something veiled by the idea of tech, which I think is something that happens a lot right now.
Interesting, yeah.
Where people want to invest in anything that has a word tech in it, whereas Coperni puts tech so deeply into the essence that it becomes so interlinked that it's like it's a real permanent today's brand. And I think being able to interlink such an amazing campaign about tech to a real life execution of it is what people really want to see. It's like the next step.
Yeah. I'm so conscious that we could keep going, and I want to talk I've got so many other things that I want to ask you guys about, but I think we should make our final thoughts. So I want to just ask you, with this, you know, this sort of Instagram pioneering brand, what would we like to see next? What would we like? How would we like their brand to continue?
Do their next show in a more creative, tech-focused way.
Yeah, probably just subvert the next trends of the internet, maybe deep fakes or Reddit forums, Discord, I don't know, something.
They need to come to us and we can come up with some wacky next things to do. Yeah. I mean, I like the excuse me. I loved that the part of the Coperni's Your Life campaign also did integrate, like you mentioned, you know, their community, their, you know, Teddy Quinlivan and Chloe Wise and people who are, you know, faces who are kind of in the brand. And I thought they mixed the IRL of community really well with, you know, using Instagram. So personally, I'd like to see that more. But Eastwood, you've been the most unimpressed, I would say.
Not that I'm unimpressed. I just feel like, you know, sometimes you just don't need an opinion. Like, just do your thing, you know? Like, I see what they're trying to do, and I just feel like they should just carry on doing it. And they shouldn't even worry about doing big shows. Shows are fucking expensive, and they should just, if you can even show it like on a normal little curve thing, then just do that.
Yeah.
Like, there's no pressure. Like, they shouldn't feel pressured either. I feel like they're putting the pressure on themselves by doing such a big tech thing and then just showing a runway like that.
Yeah.
So they just do.
So I guess we would say to them, you know, Sebastian and Arnaud, if you're watching, you guys, you do you. Take our advice, but you do you. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you to all the panelists, and thank you at home for watching. For more extensive Fashion Week coverage, be sure to visit SHOWstudio.com. And if you're watching via Show Studio's YouTube channel, please like, comment, and subscribe below. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
I wanted to do that for so long.